What's up everybody, we're back in Uldir with another raid guide, and today we're taking a look at the Fetid Devourer on Mythic difficulty. So I'll be going over most of the mechanics, how to deal with them, and our overall tactic for this fight. So you want 2 tanks, 4 healers, and 14 DPS. It's still doable if you have like 6 melee, but it's a lot easier with fewer. So the big change here is that there's one additional ad called Mutated Mass. It acts the same way as the regular ad, but they have more HP and they have a much longer cast time on their self-heal and before they actually get numbed by the boss. On top of this, the debuff Malodorous Miasma now spreads, so players with this will get a circle around them, and if another player stands within it when it ticks, then they will get it as well. And to make it a bit more fun, when that debuff mutates into the larger circle, the Putrid Paroxysm, it will start to spread to anyone within the circle as well. So it's a bit annoying to say the least. Here's what we did. We split the raid into 3 different groups, 1 per ad, and we made sure to spread them out all over the room. So there's 1 group for each small ad and 1 group who only focus on the big ad. For the big ad group, it really depends on your setup. Warlocks are great for them. We went with 2 Warlocks and 1 Frost DK on our first kill. But as long as it dies, it really doesn't matter what you put on it. And for these smaller ad groups, you want no more than 2 melee if possible. And you want to make sure, again, if possible, to debuff the ads with things like Demon Hunters and Monks. The DPS check is tight, so squeezing out every little DPS you can will be needed. So we had our Demon Hunter go for the ad our Boomkins and Mages went for, and our Monk for the ad that both Melee and Hunters were on, for example. So our small ad groups had mostly 3 marks per group to watch out for in somewhat of an L formation as shown here. And the last group only focused on the big mutated ad. But RNG is a real big thing in this fight. We all love us a bit of RNG, so depending on ad spawn, you'll either have a very easy time to clear or an almost impossible task ahead of you. So for example, if the big ad, the mutated ad, spawn at the far end of the room and the 2 small ads spawn at the entrance, chances are you're not gonna make it. So yeah, moving on, we spread out all over the room according to our groups. And any player who had a player in front of them is in charge of not getting hit by that player when the knockbacks happen. So for example, you're a healer standing in the middle of the room, you want to make sure you don't get a melee DPS in your face during knockbacks. And the same thing applies to your ranged DPS, you want to make sure a healer isn't knocked into you or another ranged DPS. On top of this, players can and should use things like blinks, charge, fell rush, etc. on knockbacks to minimize downtime and the risk of getting knocked into another player. So for example, if you're a warrior, you get knocked back, you just insta-charge back in. On top of this, you want your low mobility classes such as DK to have a nice cozy spot against a wall or somewhere they can get knocked into so they don't lose any uptime, because the poor DK doesn't have charge. And the reason for the positioning and the knockbacks and everything like that is just to keep the debuff from spreading. So we tank the boss against the first pillar to the left when you get into the room, and anytime a mutated ad spawn either on the opposite side of the boss or at the end of the room, we move the boss a bit closer just to make sure everyone could dodge the breath. And if the mutated ad spawned right next to the boss, we often pull the boss over to it just for cleaving. However, if DPS is not an issue for you guys, then I urge you to minimize boss movement as much as possible. It does complicate other players' movement a bit, and there's always the risk of a player going a tad too close to Fetid and accidentally gets the thrash. So all in all, there's not a whole lot to do here. It's mostly getting used to the movement so you don't spread debuffs to everyone and maxing out your DPS on the ad. We used some cooldowns on pull and saved some for the first set of ads. We used second pot and any available cooldowns for the second set of ads, and bloodlust and any cooldowns for the third set of ads. After the third set of ads, it's all about burning down the boss before he noms an ad. And tanks should again beware of heavy tank damage. Whoever takes the thrash needs to be topped off before any new thrash, and the main tank, so to say, will need a lot of love all the time. In case one of the tanks dies during the last few percentage of the boss, anyone can stand on top of the tank that's alive and use defensive cooldowns like Blessing of Protection, Bubble, Die by the Sword. I assume the same is true for Ice Block and Turtle, but we haven't tried that out, but it comes in handy sometimes. So yeah, sort out your positions, get get used to how the debuff spreading works, focus on handling ads, and get ready to hate the fact that the boss patrols around the room. And I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions at all, make sure to hit me up in the comments below. And as always, if you like these kind of videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, and ring that notification bell and switch it to all. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.